You've been told belly fat is all about discipline. Eat less, move more, try harder. But if the technique is wrong, your body keeps storing no matter how motivated you are. Belly fat isn't stubborn, it's protected. High insulin and chronic inflammation act like a lock, and constant snacking plus the wrong fats keep that lock closed. So you grind through workouts, cut calories, and still watch your waist barely change because you're pushing the gas while the brakes are still on. The result is predictable. Cravings hit harder, sleep gets lighter, energy drops, and you start blaming age or genetics. But when you finally use the right technique, clean fats, a real fasting window, walking for stress, and short, intense training, the signal flips, and that's when belly fat starts letting go. That little belly you ignore today can quietly turn into years of slow damage. Higher blood sugar, rising blood pressure, and a metabolism that feels like it's aging faster than you are. Doctors call it insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. It's the same brakes and gas problem. You push harder, but the lock stays shut. The symptoms are familiar: stubborn waist, late-night cravings, restless sleep, and workouts that stop working. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the exact technique that flips the signal and what the first days look like when the brakes finally release. First 24 to 72 hours is when the right technique stops being a motivational poster and starts being biology. Belly fat isn't stubborn, it's obedient. If your day is a parade of snacks, sweet drinks, and just a bite, insulin stays high like a nightclub bouncer who never clocks out, and fat loss stays on the other side of the velvet rope. So the first move is simple but not easy. Stop feeding the bouncer. Tighten carbs, stop grazing, build meals from real food, and clean up the fats so you're not constantly pouring ultra-processed fuel on the inflammation fire. The scale may drop quickly at first, mostly glycogen and water. Then you might feel a little keto-fluish, which is often less about carbs and more about basics like fluids, sodium, potassium, and magnesium. The win of this phase is momentum. You're proving the lock can move and your hunger isn't the boss. And that's huge. Days 4 through 7 is when the engine starts idling smoothly instead of stalling at every red light. Your liver ramps up ketone production, your brain gets a steadier fuel option, and cravings often shrink from breaking news alert to minor notification. This is where a real fasting window matters because it creates hours of low insulin and low intake without you negotiating with yourself every 20 minutes. In meta-analyses of meal timing strategies, time-restricted eating and fewer daily eating events are typically associated with modest weight loss and improved metabolic markers for many adults. And here's a reality check that should make you mad in a useful way. In the NIH inpatient trial comparing ultra-processed vs unprocessed diets, people ate about 500 extra calories per day on the ultra-processed menu and gained about 2 pounds in just 2 weeks, even though the menus were designed to be comparable and participants could eat as much as they wanted. Translation: your environment can out-eat your willpower. Now you start rebuilding your gut like a garden. Fiber from a big salad or fermented veggies if raw greens don't love you back, because better gut signaling tends to support better appetite control. The value of this phase is quiet, less food noise, more control, and your first taste of, ooh, this might actually work, right away. Weeks 2 to 4 is when belly fat starts becoming metabolically available instead of feeling like it's glued on with industrial adhesive. As insulin resistance improves, that bouncer relaxes and stored fat becomes easier to tap, especially visceral fat, the deep danger padding around organs that tracks with cardiometabolic risk. In real life, this is the "my genes stopped arguing with me" phase. Your belt doesn't care about trends, it only reports physics. Now add daily walking and you're not just burning calories. You're turning down stress, which supports better sleep, and better sleep changes appetite in a way no pep talk can. In a randomized sleep extension trial, adults who simply slept longer for 2 weeks reduced their daily energy intake by about 270 calories on average without being told to diet. because a rested brain makes better decisions and a calmer body craves less chaos. Layer in 1 to 3 short HIIT sessions per week and you get a powerful metabolic nudge without living in the gym. Meta-analyses on HIIT show it can reduce total, abdominal, and even visceral fat, and the best plan is the one your knees and schedule will still tolerate next month. The win here is visible progress. Your waist changes because the signal changed, not because you suffered harder. Around weeks 8 to 12 is fat adaptation, the point where your metabolism stops acting like it only runs on sugar and starts burning fat like it's a normal Tuesday. Mitochondria get better at using fat, hunger often drops, energy becomes steadier, and you can go longer between meals without feeling like you're auditioning for a survival show. This is also where quality matters more than ever, because keto can mean steak and vegetables, or it can mean ultra-processed keto cookies that somehow contain 5 kinds of starch and a label that screams net carbs, like your metabolism can't read the fine print. If you keep your diet mostly whole foods, adequate protein, and consistent meal timing, research syntheses on low-carb and ketogenic approaches generally show meaningful reductions in body weight and fat mass for many people, especially those starting with insulin resistance, because you're finally working with physiology instead of fighting it. The value here is sustainability. It feels less like white-knuckling and more like a system you can run on autopilot. Beyond 3 months is where belly fat staying off becomes realistic, because the goal isn't permanent restriction, it's metabolic flexibility and a calmer baseline. You keep the core signals: fewer ultra-processed foods, fewer eating events, a reliable eating window most days, walking as your daily stress dial, and some intensity plus strength work so muscle stays insulin sensitive. People argue about omega-6 and seed oils nonstop, but the practical takeaway is clear. The more your diet is built around packaged and fried foods, the easier it is to overeat and the harder it is to lean out. So don't chase perfection, chase the signal. Measure your waist weekly, not hourly, and aim for habits you can repeat. Most health guidelines point to about 150 minutes per week of moderate activity as a solid floor. And walking is the most underrated fat loss tool because it lowers stress without spiking appetite. And if you take meds for diabetes or blood pressure, talk with your clinician before aggressive fasting, because the right technique should change your waistline, not your safety. If you slip, treat it like missing a flight, not crashing the plane. You rebook the next meal and move on. That's what happens to belly fat when you finally use the right technique. It stops being a personal failure story and becomes a predictable outcome of a better signal. I used to think belly fat was this personal flaw, like my body was being petty on purpose. But the more I learned, the more I realized it was just biology doing what it was told. When you change the signal, it changes back. Not overnight, not perfectly, but in a way you can actually feel less craving, steadier energy, a waistband that finally loosens without you declaring war on food. And honestly, that's the part I want for you, progress that doesn't require misery. So try the technique for a week, just 1 week, and pay attention to what gets quieter inside you. If you're in, hit like and subscribe so we can keep this simple and consistent together. Comment, "I'm starting," and tell me what you're cutting first: snacks, seed oils, or late night eating. I read the comments, and I'll make the next video based on what you're struggling with most.